Good evening, viewers. Hope all of you are doing great and are trying to stay as safe as possible. As you know, we all are experiencing toughest times in the last 100 years, really. But relentlessly as we are here with another beautiful program sharing success stories of beauty with brains with you. And it's an immense pleasure to be with a special guest here today. But before I really introduce you, uh, want to talk about our beauty with brains and bravery as a concept. When we say these three words, really need we say more? Then why really beauty with brains and bravery? The idea is the purpose behind is to encourage, enrich, and help empower women to aspire and excel professionally and personally. That's really our ultimate goal, and the mission is to build a network of world's most sought after women professionals so they could share their knowledge, skills, experiences, opportunities, resources, dreams, aspirations, as well as their challenges, fears, shortcomings, requirements as they pursue a common goal of leading richer, more fulfilling lives. Beauty with Brains and Bravery live programs is really an initiative in this direction by celebrating the successes of women professionals from the world to stir the ecosystem so we can have more Saraswatis, that is, of course, the idol of knowledge, intelligence, Lakshmi, more number of Lakshmis, the really the symbolism of wealth, and Nirbhayas or Durgas, who symbolize, of course, power and just being fearless in this world and in our neighborhoods. If we have more of Saraswati, Lakshmis, and Nirbhayas, you know how the place can only get better and more safer. To some of you who already know and would know, but those who are new to the program, I'm Rajshri Gadgil, of course, with 20 years of global experience in business strategy, consulting, branding, nutrition formulations. I do hold a master's degree in science and an MBA in marketing, and I am, of course, the founder and CEO with Truwellth Integrative Health Centers, as well as Energia Nutrition and Healthcare Private Limited, as well as Medinext, really. So, three organizations that I've been um, running pretty well, I can say. Networking is really my passion, and beauty with brains and bravery is much about that for me. But here today, I am with my special co-host, and that is Rima Goel. She has also been here with on our programs, and she is a C-suite consultant with over a decade of experience in executive search and leadership advisory across global MNCs like Stanton Chase International and RGF Executive Search. She has an MSc in HRM from the Cardiff University in Wales, and she really, her focus when she works has been to help client organizations achieve their strategic goals through intrinsic assessment and bringing on board transformation leaders for niche and high impact roles, both in startup and growth phases.
Professionals as I have known in my career. In terms of being someone who's absolutely strategic and on the other hand, extremely hands-on with regards to handling HR matters of strategy, matters of operations, execution. I think she has had an extremely enriching and fulfilling career through the various organizations. And mind you, these are absolutely marquee brands that she's been associated with. And she's really done some phenomenal work and contribution to HR as an organization, and as a function in various roles that she has played. Like I said, probably one of the most end-to-end, hands-on and strategic HR professionals that I have known, interacted with. Always a pleasure knowing her, interacting with her at any given time of the day. I think, one of the most enduring qualities about her is just the initial part of the conversation when we start, and no matter how taxing and difficult your days are, just a hello from her can kind of, take away all that stress and all that chaos of the day. So I really mean that, Dakshina.
Wow, that's
So
really
I think
great.
over to you. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on this forum with us, and can't wait to you know kickstart our conversations today.
So while Rima says that that's your quality, I know it's a huge quality in itself. It may sound like the simplest thing, but if that is the level of comfort you give everyone, I don't know. I'm just trying to drop a question behind it, but does that really come from your upbringing? Does that really come from the environments that you have worked in, and is that how you've developed into? Because we know that HR is the backbone of everything that happens with an organization. Though people sitting up in finance, marketing, all of them think that they are running the organizations, but at the backbone, it's really the way they are developed over the years. What would you like to say, and anything that you would want to start the program with?
First of all, I would like to start the program by thanking you, Rajshri and Reema. And what a wonderful introduction. Okay. So I wasn't the head of HR for SCICI, but I was a part of the corporate HR team and also Religare.
Yep.
Um, so I would start by saying that it's a privilege to be a part of a forum like this, and I'm talking to two people who are entrepreneurs, and that too for such a noble cause. There are a lot of organizations perhaps doing wellness and healthcare and stuff, but to have it based on a passion and yet create an organization around it to be able to balance that, that is something close to your heart. And I remember our chat yesterday when we talked about how you like the concept of mental wellness and people who make it a
Yes.
priority, and how you're integrating that in your True Health platform.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible. So my compliments to you, Rajshri, for starting something like this. And I'm sure there'll be many people who would want to join and want to be a part of a forum like this. So to that extent, I am really privileged that Rima, reached out and we had that little conversation yesterday and some time back. So a big thank you. So I would start with that. It's like it's women like your both of you who encourage others to really believe that there is some worth that in what they do, and perhaps can impact or make an impression in the lives of other people. It's we are all doing work and we do it in our own space and in our own way, but when that is being put out for other people to know or to other people to hear, because everyone wants to talk about what they do. I mean, I'm sure that includes most people. So to have a forum like this where others can listen to if there is something that I've done which can help another person's life to become a little easier, I think that's a very important contribution. I would say, to answer your question, making people comfortable, did that happen because of the result of my upbringing, or is it something that's always been there?
Yeah.
Uh, oh, hello. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. It's also in its own way an iterative or a deliberative process. Like you do that, some things work, some things don't work, and also when you are at the receiving end of a not so comfortable experience or a not a pleasant behavior by somebody, then I think then that makes you become more aware that at least you try and make people feel comfortable, because you know how it is to not being made to feel comfortable in a conversation or somebody making a comment or something like that. So I'm essentially sensitive as a human being, so I think maybe that's the reason why I notice some of these things a little more, maybe, or I absorb and try and make sure that I correct myself. We are humans, right? So we can't be perfect, or there is nothing called perfect behavior or whatever. So obviously, one learns through faults and failures and making mistakes. But I think the important thing is to, once a mistake has been made, is important to acknowledge that, oh, that was a mistake. I made a mistake and I won't do it again. And I'll correct myself. So I think some of these things work, some of these things are more important to me. Life is an iterative process, right? We succeed somewhere, we fail somewhere, we make mistakes. Some people make perceptions, and then you make your own perception about your own self also. Like I'll make a perception about my own self as well, saying that, oh my God, like, this is not something right. So then you work, and I'm working on it. So it's always in a, so like I sometimes say, and my friends tease me for that also, though, I say that I'm in a self development mode. So there's constantly something or the other. Either I'm working on my time management, or I'm working on my interaction, or I'm working on something like vocabulary or anything of that sort. So one keeps adding. Yeah, it's a long answer to a short question, but
It's interesting when you say that, you're constantly evolving and constantly looking at kind of fine-tuning skills, adding a few feathers to your cap, because I think that's the way to be, right? One should, never really settle or kind of stop going or achieving something more and adding some more nuances and more skills to one's life. So it's very interesting that you bring out that point. I think it is very relevant in today's time and age that one should keep evolving, one should keep adding newer skill sets to one's existing portfolio. And it's also interesting when you speak about you yourself being a sensitive person, and that kind of transcends into your professional life, and how you kind of view your colleagues, your subordinates, your team members, so to speak. That's very important. I mean, one of the things that Rajshri and I keep discussing as well, and if you recall, we were speaking about it even yesterday, that I think I think what we feel as one of the important traits or important aspects of an HR leader would be to strike that balance between the IQ and the EQ, right? I mean, bringing in the right amount of emotional quotient at the same time, not letting get carried away by, pure play emotions, because at the end of the day, while it is human resources that one is dealing with, but then it is, you want to make a tangible contribution to the organization as well. So you have to keep the IQ in check and the objectivity in check. So it's interesting how someone like you would be doing that in your various roles. I mean, why don't you kind of give us some reflection there in terms of how you strike that balance?
Rima, one of the things that's worked for me is to really try and keep things as simple as possible.
Mm,
And it's a difficult thing to do. And it takes time to to work on it and really understand that how one can really simplify. Like any interaction typically is either the person is contributing something to you, or the person is expecting something to take, whatever it is, in knowledge, or it's a service,
yeah.
or they've come to seek some work, or they want you to do something for them. So these are simple things to understand. So I think it's important to know that, okay, what is it that you can do for that person. So even in my HR role, typically when I'm interacting with employees, is either the employees want something, or they want the organization to do something. So
Mm,
being a sensitive person, maybe I'm able to anticipate or understand that what their needs are.
mm,
And I don't know about the IQ part, but because we're conversing on that topic, so maybe the usage of that is to be able to match that with what the organization can deliver, to create that kind of an environment or a framework, or if you may please, a policy or a practice which the organization willing to execute for their employees. So on one hand, being able to understand what employees want, and if that's what you want to put in the space of EQ, anticipating those, and then putting it in a framework and policy from an organization perspective. So matching these two actually creates a space which is good for the employees, because then they know that they are a part of an organization which is catering to, well, one can't cater to all the needs, but at least catering, or the organization is sensitive to the employee needs. And the organization also knows that, it is a part of the employee value proposition, and it is within the framework of the company. It is not overstepping the values or overstepping the culture. but and yet they are able to deliver to what the employees are expecting. Well, I mean, I'm not creating a idealistic environment. Maybe, 10 times you make an effort, maybe you succeed 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, but you're succeeding. And those are creating moments of truth for employees that, when this is a requirement, there is this department, there's this function, or there's this team of people who are able to understand that and trying to create and relate to the people who matter, so that the practices and policies are in turn impacting the employees, like even wellness. Since we are talking on that in the platform here, and people have woken up to the concept of wellness few years ago, and organizations are doing so many things to integrate that. So one is that, I also want to be a part of it, and I also want to be an organization who would want to be doing it. And the other is to really imbibe it in the cultural fabric of the organization. Like, and I don't want to sound wrong, so I'm a bit cautious about the words that I'm choosing. A healthy employee is is definitely an asset for the organization. And when I say healthy
Very
employee,
well said.
physically healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, socially healthy.
Yeah.
Like if somebody is socially alienated for whatever, or doesn't have the necessary skills to be socially being able to mix with people very easily. I'm not, it's not with a color of judgment, but some people are just not like that. So how can the
Yeah.
organization enable the employee to
Mm.
become more social? And these are real areas where one can make an impact in the wellness space. Mental
Mm.
wellness, a big topic these days. There's, every second article you're reading is about mental wellness, but stitching them into organization cultural fabric, trying to create interventions or providing facilities or benefits which directly impact an employee, and and impacts to better the mental health. There's stress is a reality of our lives.
Mm.
I don't think anybody is devoid of stress, but helping the employees to deal with it, to
Yeah.
not inculcate it, but having tools and skills and competencies to be able to handle stress better. Or I would go a step further to say that don't let stress settle in. How,
Mm.
that moment which causes stress, what can the
Mm.
organization do to equip employees so that the employee acknowledges that it's a stressful moment, but doesn't internalize it to really damage, because we know that these kind of things damage our physical health as well. Prolonged stress
Of
and
course. Of course.
tension, anxiety,
Yeah.
all of these, apart from damaging us in our minds, they damage our bodies.
Right.
So just this
Absolutely.
bringing in these awareness through interventions, to having partners who can do these workshops or programs, or anything. The tools can be chosen, but I'm saying once they inculcate these kind of nuances in the cultural fabric, I think it goes a long way.
So
Talking about it is just
it's
not enough.
awesome input. I mean, just
Yeah.
wanted to comment because
Yeah.
how many are out there are really thinking on these lines, because we are thinking of so many different SOPs protocols, but trying to intrinsically I'm sure you being very sensitive to it, and sensitive as a person really helps your employees out there, especially in these conditions.
I mean, see, Rajshri, at the end of the day, when we work with people, it's not only a relationship of colleagues at work, right? I mean,
Yeah.
over a period of time, you do tend to care for people whom
Yes,
you're working with more than just colleagues. And if
truly
there is a particular information, if it is shared and that impacts people, I mean, where am I getting it? I'm also getting it from someone,
correct.
my environment. So if my other environment are my colleagues or my team members, then, and if I share it, like the other day I was so my yoga teacher is taking a class on chakras, the yogas that help develop several chakras. So she was one of the class was dedicated to the throat chakra, and during that class she mentioned that three things, if you have a filter of three things before you say something to someone, which is it necessary, is it true, is it kind? That's a very powerful filter before I say something. So that prevents me from hurting someone, or that prevents me from telling something which is not a fact. So I was doing a team meeting later that evening, and I said, today I learned this, and I thought it was a very good filter, especially for people in human resources, because you're dealing with all kinds of people, and the day is not the same. There's some stress. I would have had an interaction with somebody, and maybe I'm carrying that whole frame of mind into my next conversation. But if I create this filter in my, and it'll take me some time to practice and put it in, like, it becomes my default behavior. But just the fact that I gained a new knowledge and I shared it with a larger number of people, whoever has to take it will take it. But what did it cost me to do that?
Yeah.
So these are the ways that we can really imbibe some of these things in our own behavior and the way we,
Yeah.
and because I care for my team, I thought it would be important. Whoever wants to take it, take it.
Yeah. So I want to add something out there from a health perspective, since you said exactly to your point. I mean, you did mention the stress and then it physically affecting you. I've been doing so many talks out there where the stress, when you internalize the stress, it converts into inflammation and oxidative stress. And a lot of information is out there, but not too many people are talking about it. But these are two primary reasons at the bottom of everything, which is really even causing people to succumb to this infection. So imagine that if we are not able to control uh, just not going out, but staying inside and building the stress is not helpful. So yeah, I mean, from that standpoint, mental health is something which is extremely important to be focused on. And again, it's mental health. There's nothing wrong with us that we shouldn't talk about it. And you rightly pointed out, you said IQ and EQ, and how you can imparting that knowledge, which sort of makes us rationally think, and having a sensitive mind. If both of them are amalgamated into making a more intuitive thinking, a more sensitive intuitive thinking, that is what really I think can help every individual really make the right choices very intuitively, instead of trying to think and dwell and then take a decision. It's like a lot of times it becomes easier. Is just something I wanted to share from my counseling that I'm doing to people. And over and over again, people come to me for weight losses and so many different easier looking things, but at the bottom of it, you have to change their thinking. And I think
Yeah.
you also said all those words, but whenever we start, we have to do it very subtly. If we start saying all that to them, then it's too much of wisdom for them to digest, and they probably even find us boring, just as our
Yeah, yeah.
kids. But yeah, I mean, that was one point I wanted to make. But Rima, if you wanted to add something, or I think.
I mean, there is something that comes to my mind. Do you think this comes very naturally to you, given the fact that we are women, and generally the
Yeah.
emotional quotient and the sensitivity? I mean, I don't want to sound stereotypical or gender biased here, but it's just an observation and just a thought that comes to my mind. Do you think this element of being sensitive? See, I love the fact that you spoke about not just mental wellness but also social wellness, and that kind of transcending into you being a physically healthy and a happy person, and a physically healthy happy person who's mentally happy and socially happy is a happy employee at the end of the day. So I like the end-to-end thinking that you have about this. So I'm just wondering, if does it come strongly from the fact that women tend to think a little more with regards to being a little more sensitive and a little more broader in their opinion and their vision towards their fellow colleagues or team members?
I mean, owing to some natural qualities that women are born with, exactly how some natural qualities that men are born with.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
I guess some of the natural qualities that women are born with are like, one is more nurturing, one is more
right,
caring, or
right,
one is more also, I think, emotionally a little more astute.
right,
Understand that, okay, or feel a little more. The other thing is also that maybe women, as and I'm talking about being conditioned in a time which is very different from the time that we are living today.
Very true.
So you watch your like I've watched my grandmother, grandparents, I've watched my mother, and I've watched so many other people at that time when I think their contribution to their family or to the people around them was very different from
Right.
what we see around today, or the kind of conversations that we are doing today about equality and and gender equality and all of that. But as they say that most impressions are actually formed when we're children.
Very
So I
young.
think as a
Yeah.
child, what I would have witnessed around me, the
Yeah.
cultural fabric around me, the ecosystem around me, would probably have framed some of these. You know, Now we have a word for it, like it's conditioned me in a certain way.
Mhm.
Like many of us,
True.
like maybe even for you, it may also be true for you, or it may also be true for Rajshri. So we grow up observing these things, and we do
Yeah.
not realize when they become a part of us.
Yeah.
And when a time comes for us to play that role,
Yes.
even when you have a team, you have a team of a certain number of people, and you realize that this is they're looking up to you, or they need you for something. But I think those unconscious conditioning, those behaviors come out, whether you call it being sensitive to people's needs, or whether you want to care for them. I think those those come out. So I'm not sure if it is intrinsically about because I'm a woman, that is why, but we are born with these qualities, and
Probably.
once when they find a space to be demonstrated, I think we naturally demonstrate it.
Yeah.
So if the conditioning would have been that men are supposed to be in this way, and there are a lot of men like that who are very caring and nurturing as well, but but women definitely are born with some of these qualities. I mean, we are a part of a country where gods have been worshipped and goddesses have been worshipped, and there are qualities like Rajshri in our introduction was talking about Saraswati and Lakshmi. There's a reason why they are a part of our vocabulary. There is a reason why they are a part of our lives. Like we
Yeah.
believe in all of these. Um, yeah, but nowadays people have to be so watchful about what they say, because then one is
Yeah.
typecast as a believer, or a
Yeah.
non-believer, and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
That
I was just
but
going to
I
say
own
that.
my I own my traditions with pride. I mean,
Yes.
I'm proud that I'm born in
Lovely.
a country of wisdom, and I'm born in a country where there's such heritage and history. And come to think of it, probably like however many thousand years ago, I'm sure there was a concept of really celebrating women, right? Otherwise, why would there be goddesses?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
Very well said.
so but Ajkal, to say all these things also become a bit of it's like a
I
controversial
know.
topic. But
I
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I was about to say part of me is sort of atheist. So, I kind of don't believe in, but like you rightly said, these are idealized so that, we have those impressions. We are inspired in the right way. And it could be
the
any
qualities,
religion.
Rajshri, not
Yes,
so much about the label of a Saraswati or label of
yes,
a Lakshmi as
yes,
goddesses,
yes,
but the
I
qualities
agree.
that these, if I may use the word for the lack of any better word, characters,
yes.
the qualities
Correct.
of these characters. So we are
Yes.
actually inspired by these characters in some way,
Right.
and we start
Right.
imbibing them in our lives. So faith, no faith, but just as characters. But yeah, but what you were saying, that is it because I'm a woman? Perhaps I am, but am I? I mean, am I conscious about it that because I'm a woman, so that is why I have these things? Uh, I don't know
No, I
whether.
don't think so. I don't think that happens. I mean, I know for sure that one doesn't play the card very consciously, because it is something which, like you perfectly pointed out, it kind of gets ingrained into your internal fabric as you're growing up. One never realizes when these things kind of get get into your system, and you do what you've seen, your parents do or your ecosystem around you do. So I know, I understand that. And like you perfectly said, one has to be really careful in terms of what one really, the kind of the terminologies one really uses. But that's why I was a little wary when I even spoke to you about that, because I know a lot of male HR leaders as well who are extremely sensitive and equally caring and understanding towards their team members as well. So just thought of hearing your thoughts in terms of
Yeah,
how
yeah.
But
how
but
you
on
view
that
something
point,
like
I have a
that.
question to both of you, or in fact to Sudakshina, because I know that we probably when we did our MBAs, HR was something like a completely new stream. We were coming out of those IR days, and suddenly there was something like a human resources sort of a stream that was open to us. And I remember, and I did steal and watch one of your interviews where I know you said that you were actually told by one of your teachers that you should take HR. And it's such a common thing that most of my friends who did MBA with me, I landed up taking up marketing, which you wanted to, but most of my friends went into HR because either someone at home had guided them to get into it, because as a woman they felt that you may not be able to handle marketing, more than the fact that they would be told that you will be able to handle HR better. So how was it when you had to make the choice? And what do you think, it is better that you took up HR, because that's something, being sensitive, you've been able to add more value.
Actually, the seeds of this was born much before. So, I spent a part of my growing up years in Calcutta. And during that time, there was this leading news daily, which had what is it called, like an annex to it every Wednesday, which is called Quest. And, they had these beautiful stories about workplace. And then there was these, then there were experts, not like the agony aunt kinds, but agony aunts were also very popular, but like experts talk about career choices, helping people to make career choices, and people would write to the newspaper about their problems, and people would give solutions and stuff. But the stories that they used to publish in the newspaper about workplaces, really, I found it very intriguing. Like, I used to really like and look forward to that. Every Wednesday this will come. Then that got over, and I got busy with life, and like whatever work, MBA happened and stuff. But by that time, I think I started to read more about marketing, and I thought it was a nice profession to be in. So I thought, oh, I'll do marketing. Up until when the professor said that do HR, and so then when I asked him a little bit more about it, and I could relate that it's actually that what I used to read in in
Yes,
those
yes.
in the newspaper. So I said, oh, okay, then it's good. I mean, like I'm
Yeah.
this is something that I had read earlier, but still I would say that it has not been like a deliberate choice to be in HR. But today when I look back, obviously it's a blessing that it happened. um, I wouldn't be here, you wouldn't be talking to me perhaps if that wouldn't have happened. So everything happens for a reason. You only and the dots are connected only after some time, and you realize that that was the best thing that could have happened to you. So, so having said that, and I think it's a very important discipline, I would say. I'm not saying getting into department or function. I think human resources as a discipline is a very powerful discipline. It's a wonderful discipline because you're dealing with the softer elements of a human being, professionals, and you're like you were talking about, it's the backbone. It's also a lot of times like arteries through which the blood actually flows, because you are messenger, you are the translator, you're the interpreter, you're the one who's carrying the good news and also not so good news. And the organization relies on a discipline like this, which is human resources for multiple things. And employees also rely on human resources for their requirements, their needs. So I think it's a beautiful it's like a center point where a lot of things really culminate as far as the software elements of the organization is concerned. So on hindsight, it's been great. I mean, I have no complaints.
Well, well, and I'm also envious of my batchmates who actually have done really well, who picked up HRs, are probably leading more, heading more positions than the marketing people who have to, had to compete a lot, because a
Marketing
lot.
people become entrepreneurs, Raj. Marketing professionals become entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I'm glad that I have taken that bold and difficult step, but it's all going good. So I think you rightly said that they become entrepreneurs. Rima, did you want to?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
So, Dakshina, one of the things that comes to my mind is, you you very specifically spoke about how, even Rajshri was speaking about it earlier, that how the times have changed, So I'm sure correspondingly, the role and the functions and the responsibilities of an HR organization and an HR leader also has, transformed and has changed. And, if at all nothing, the given year or the current year would have taught enough and more to HR leaders in terms of how to make your organization future ready and be prepared for any kind of crisis. I mean, because this was something which was absolutely unprecedented. So I'm sure being the HR leader of a phenomenally large organization would have required a lot of unprecedented measures as well. And the last 6 to 8 months must have taken a huge toll on HR leaders across the country and across the world, so to say. So, why don't you reflect some of your thoughts in terms of what has the journey been of, an HR leader over the past, say, decade, and how do you see it going from where it is today? How future ready is HR as a function, and what are the new disruptions that one can really think of within HR as a function today?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So, if I were to if I were to refer to the experiences that I have had and the learnings thereof, I would say that perhaps the last decade has largely been about, being proactive, anticipate change, and prepare for change. These are some of the key words as far as HR was concerned to prepare the organization. But 2020 turned everything on the head, and it just suddenly presented, the world another word which I just really I think it's very powerful, like an equalizer. So today, the pandemic definitely has taught us that it's a huge equalizer. It does not discriminate, among people
Yes,
of whether they are in a certain strata of society or a certain profession or certain geography. It's, I mean, each of us probably is in equal probability of
yes,
contracting this disease.
Yeah.
And it's a huge learning. It's a huge thing to say if you really think about it, that there is no, there is, I mean, even the protection from a disease like this is common across everyone. I mean, you have to wear a mask, you have to practice social distancing, whoever you may be. So, what is a learning here for a profession like this? The other day I was talking to somebody and I said, it's also turned the equation of an employer and employee completely. Looking
mm,
at attendance systems, darting into office on time and clocking those number of hours, doing productivity measurement and all of that. Today you see how the organization, how this environment has created independent employees,
Yes.
mostly,
Totally.
largely. It is
Totally.
pronounced accountability for people. Like, I am accountable for my work. I know that I have to produce this during the day. It has taught people to balance because, because
very
people are
true,
not going to offices,
very true.
a lot of, you knew that this part of your day is dedicated to office time, this part of your day is dedicated to personal. But I think some of those timelines have gotten blurred because we're working from home. So it's
Very
teaching
true.
us to yet create a new balance as to how, without disrupting much. Now, again, the learning here for the organization is that probably it's better to keep it supple, to nurture employees as independent, accountable professionals.
Mm,
And this is one change, and this change has hit, all across the world. There could be multiple such changes tomorrow. We are anyways talking about how would the organization want to prepare for the, advent of technology and parallel
Yes. Yes.
workforce. And tomorrow it may not be that I'm only dealing with another human being as my colleague. It could be an AI enabled,
absolutely.
character who's my colleague. So it'll
Absolutely.
obviously want, it'll want of me to define different behaviors. So I think it's a very dynamic future where a lot of these boxing, as in boxing of policies and practices, is going to completely get shattered.
Mm,
We're talking about millennials, and last few years people have been saying, managing workforce, especially millennial workforce, is, it takes a specific skill. It takes the organization
very true.
different policies. Then on the other layer is about the whole diversity and inclusion piece. That, how you include people from different ethnicity, different abilities, different skills, different languages. I mean, the world has really become more open. So now, open world, change is completely unknown. Change was always unknown, but now I think it's rapid and it's extremely dynamic. And then I mean, unprecedented learnings coming out of this COVID-19 struck world. So when you try to assimilate these three factors, I think we're definitely moving into a world where disruption will happen from all angles, because human mind is moving very differently. When the
Yeah.
human mind moves differently, behaviors change. When the behaviors change, it impacts the ecosystem, organization included. So to prepare an organization which can respond to very diverse needs and wants of people. We
Yes.
people said, okay, we'll do employee engagement, and engaged employees are productive employees. All these concepts have been worked on. Today, engagement is of completely different kind, because there is no physical proximity of people. They're not coming into an office and you do an activity. So how do we ensure as an organization that employees are equally engaged to the organization, employees are equally committed to the organization? What is it that's driving them? Because they're also missing out on a whole social element. Rajshri, you were mentioning some time ago, right, about the social quotient part.
Yeah.
So, your coffee conversation, and you just step into another. I mean, you just
Yeah.
walk across to a colleague's work desk, kuch nahi hai, but just like a 5 minutes conversation.
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah.
important because man is a social being. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
these are requirements. So, obviously, to create all of those disciplines through practices and policies where you're virtually bringing people together,
Yeah.
organizations already, so many organizations already decided that they will work from home permanently. Some of the roles, some people will work from home for another year. So hence it opens up huge opportunities to see that how can employee practices and employee experiences can still be protected and pronounced, and create such enabling environment despite the employee working from remote. So I think we are stepping into a highly dynamic and disruptive work environment,
Mm.
and
And
Absolutely.
thus
businesses
the
are
role,
impacted.
That was an amazing answer. I must
yeah,
say, because
absolutely.
yeah.
And thus the role of the HR leader is that much more pronounced and that much more critical, right? Because you're managing, like you said, a dynamic workforce. You're managing a workforce which is, a blend of different kind of ethnicities, culture, background, age profiles. Someone coming in, say, from a generation, say a decade ago, or a 20-year-old generation kind of a profile, to the millennials, as we are talking about, right? So managing aspirations, managing their expectations from the organization becomes so critically important in today's time and age.
Yeah.
And therefore, how do you how do you kind of look at your leadership style? How would you define your leadership style today? Is it more more collaborative in nature, or how do you look at yourself in terms of an HR leader?
For sure, collaborative, but a lot more than just about collaborative. I think compassion is has
Yeah.
become so important, and
Absolutely.
this experience definitely has taught that.
Yeah.
Imagine, I mean, how tolerant were we earlier when we're doing a very important meeting, and nowadays those meetings happen on Zoom, and then you hear a pressure cooker blowing whistle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
That's reality.
Yeah.
So it's creating. I mean, I would say that accepting and acknowledging the real selves, the whole selves, and not just putting the best foot forward, saying, this is how I am, and this is how I'm going to be. I think it's challenging a lot of those norms. It's not about wearing that jacket of leadership anymore. It is
Yes.
about wearing it and saying, you know what, I've had a bad day. You know
Yeah.
what, like my head is in a there are a lot of chaos going on in my head. Yet, I mean, being in that space and yet being able to make an impact. I think
Yes.
leadership will be, this is the kind of leadership that I think will be um, will get developed more and more as we keep going on, because people are opening up to having real conversations. People are opening up to really seeing who you are as a person.
Yeah.
What do you bring? And I like the fact, Rajshri, that you talked about upbringing in the beginning, because when we walk into a place, whatever it is, whether organization or a social, gathering or a one-on-one, we bring everything along with us.
Yeah.
Where we come from, what are our
Absolutely.
roots, what have we learned, what,
Right.
our experiences, our mistakes, our celebrations, our win, our everything.
Yeah.
And what we say and what we hear and how we respond, everything is a factor of who we are.
Yeah.
So it is no more about, apna, you leave your oneself in the car before you get into the elevator to
Correct.
come to
Yes.
your work
Yes.
desk.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's not that. And I don't think people are getting inspired by that kind of leadership
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
want real leaders who can really say, listen, what I failed, this didn't work for me, but this is what I learned,
Yeah.
and that's why
Yes.
I'm sharing with you, so that
Yes.
you don't make the same mistakes. So
That's
yeah.
lovely.
So here I want to share something which again, you rightly mentioned that marketers finally become entrepreneurs, and having globe trotted and becoming an entrepreneur, I think this change has really happened in me in the last few years, and I think you're absolutely right when you say that, and I think that's what finally the lower down employees or people who are looking at you as a leader are going to look up to you, because they are going to look up to you for solutions today. How are they going to be able to make it through this uh, it's a nasty time. I mean, how do they get their outcomes? They're going to look at you for solutions. Absolutely. And I want to interject here, and Rima, this is something that you and I have been now thinking about, and time right that we are looking at forming a network where we could understand or get leaders who have wisdom and excellence really in leadership, because I think time right that we need leaders like you, Dakshina, who think
Yeah.
who are completely grounded and do understand that the jacket is going to be on you, but it's going to be with all the other things that are within you. So it's a brilliant point that you've actually made. But if you could emphasize a little bit more, what are your thoughts in terms of having, is there a need for such leaders with wisdom and excellence to come together? And when we say these two words, they mean a lot. They bring so much more. They bring passion, compassion. They could get knowledge, wisdom, and so many things along with it. So having something really like that, which will be enriching. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, wisdom comes from various things. I mean, you read and one can, but I think the wisdom with conviction comes when one has gone through a situation, or one has gone through an
Experience.
experience of learning. Then you read it and it's there in the mind. But when a situation presents itself and you go through it, and that's when I think that learning gets processed, and it becomes and it's backed with conviction, because you can say that, of course I went through it, so I know that this is what it is. And when the same thing is shared with people, they call it wisdom. Carry, she has wisdom. Wisdom is because one has gone through it, and you know how
Yes,
good
totally.
or bad it is.
Yeah,
um, and I think excellence is that commitment to do something with all my might.
yeah,
Like, did I give everything that I have in that assignment, or in that work, or if somebody came to me for some help, did I really explore everything, that all the options that I have to be able to help that person? I think that's excellence
yeah,
to me. And similarly in the organization, it's not like I have all the abilities, but whatever abilities I have, whether I've been able to use all of them in that work to make an impact, or to provide a solution, or to execute an intervention, whatever it may be. So I think that to me is excellence. कि अपने हिसाब से जितना I can do,
Mhm.
I
yeah.
have been able to do. And
We,
yes, but I think it's immensely important.
yeah,
if we allow our environment to, if we really observe our environment and we allow ourselves to absorb and then we permit ourselves to process it, I think then what comes out from there, it's like, that manthan. So, all of it
Yeah,
is being put and it's churned.
right,
And then what you get out of it is and
totally.
India people will be familiar with buttermilk. So, what you really get at the end of it is that pure white
Yeah,
butter,
yeah,
which is which is also so tasty.
yeah,
But yeah, so I think it's important to allow people. I mean, it's important for people to allow themselves to go through those vulnerable experiences, just to see that
yeah,
strength, of course, but also to own the vulnerabilities and own those weaknesses. To say, yeah, this is something that I need to improve upon. It's a huge thing.
yeah,
It's also painful at times. Just to say, this is not good about me. I think I need to change this.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
to say that, I think it's a very powerful experience.
Yes, I think you need honesty. You need honesty to even to for self-assessment, right?
Totally. None of us are going to be here forever. I mean, it is a limited period of time. And in that period of time, one will have to use all of this and own, saying that I'm not perfect. And there are so many good things, and there are also so many things that I need to improve upon. And if I can't say that to myself, then what right do I have to sit here and do a conversation with
Correct.
you where so
Absolutely.
many other people are listening?
Yeah,
So own me and accept me for all the goods
Right.
and the not so goods, and
yeah.
I'm willing to own my faults and say I am working on these, and I'm on a development journey here. But just to put it out there, I think that's important. People like real people, right?
So I think we are on the final few minutes with you,
Yes.
Dakshina. I know Rima, if there are any remarks or any questions that you want to put out, but I have one final question, and
Yeah.
then over to you really, because I have been doing a lot of work, and we all have been doing a lot of work in for women and bringing women back to the workforce and helping them, nurturing them. But this pandemic, of course, and otherwise as well, we have been observing that a lot of women actually quit the workforce, and it's getting even more difficult for them to come back. And unlike the Western world, I've seen when I've worked there, the support systems are different. I wouldn't say that they're essentially always better, but yeah, I mean they have more present more opportunities. Of course, they are in a very difficult patch right now in this pandemic, and so this has sort of taken all the effort that we have put into. It has taken us, if we have gone back 10 years in our efforts for getting back to women to the workforce, we've probably gone back 20 years. So, what is that, and I know, Dakshina, you have actually even written about it. You've written about motivation triggers, really. So, how do we sort of, in this kind of a scenario, still try to get women back into action? Because we all have been battling all ends, right from doing all small little work at home to the maybe a talk with another CEO or trying to close a deal, and so many things that we do in the day in day out.
That's why, Rajshri, I was mentioning that, compassion is a very important trait in a
Yes,
person.
yes,
It's most important to feel for that other person, that the person is going through so much, and especially for women, talented women who are not able to get back to work because maybe there is no support, or maybe they've not found the right opportunities. So I think if leaders practice compassion in their leadership and create that, if you can hire 10 people, can you hire one person whom is going to have may require certain more accommodation in terms of timings to get to work or timings to leave from work. But that would encourage so many others, because
yeah,
they would it's like it's more it's positive infection, right? Then they will say, what, she got an opportunity like that, so maybe if I try, I can get also. These are small things, but these are important things to encourage women who want to come back. And I think as compassionate leaders, it's possible to create these things, and then you use, like you were mentioning about IQ, then you use that to influence a space in the organization where these things can be dovetailed as a part of policy, or as a cultural practice, that we will create an environment where women can come back to work after they take their life stage changes with their marriage or with their childbirth and whatever, whatever life stage changes that they would have had, and to create that space to welcome them back. It is not a big thing, but it's just somebody has to get up and stick the neck out, saying, "Hey, let's create an environment like this.
Lovely.
Let's make it a practice in the organization."
While there has to be an internal ecosystem which is, motivating and encouraging, it's wonderful that you speak about how, the external environment also has to be equally, welcoming and encouraging, because that is how one gets motivated, and then the entire, it's like a domino effect, and then you'll have more and more women encouraged, take those brave steps
Yeah.
and kind of
One
move
success
after
story
them.
inspires so many, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
totally. And I don't know, but my experience through this pandemic has been it's been incredibly tough, but it's been incredibly productive as well. Because I think in that limited amount of time, I've probably given more time to the family and I've given more time to work as well. So
Exactly.
I think if you look at the positive side of it, it's doable. So you're probably rolling the chapatis on one side and probably taking another call with your team alongside with your Bluetooth. So it's the way you look at it. It is tough. It's no way easy, but that's what it is right now. So we have to make most out of it.
True.
That's my small experience. But
Yeah,
Rima,
and
any
it's
more? Go ahead.
actually giving us the opportunity to expand ourselves and not to
Yes.
shrink ourselves, like to
Yes.
expand
Very
and
true.
see how much more can one do. Like you said,
Right.
you're an entrepreneur. Like you said, on one call you are doing a business deal, and on probably also
Yeah.
some household chores which have to be done, or
Totally.
anything for that matter.
Very
So,
true.
it is like you have so many hands and doing so many things at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. I
I
agree.
love this thing where you said you're still wearing your jacket, but you're multiple things that going inside it. So so many things you've been able to do at the same time. Rima, if you have any concluding questions for her, and some concluding remarks from
No,
both
I
of
think
you.
we brilliantly summarized. I think one of the questions that I was myself wanting to ask Dakshana, and you brought that to the forum, was, how we as women can encourage one another, and kind of create that ripple effect in society where more and more get encouraged. And it's like I said, I'd like to comment on that once again, that it's equally important for both the machineries to work in tandem, your internal as well as your external ecosystem, for it to be that much more encouraging and motivating to women. And thanks to leaders like you, Sudakshana, there is a lot of interventions and initiatives that are happening today as far as diversity and second innings for women is concerned in organizations. So kudos to you and to every other such leader which is encouraging women and encouraging people from various walks of life, to kind of come to, the forefront, and kind of have an equal opportunity to lead their lives and,
Yeah.
make a tangible contribution to society. So fantastic. Like I said, Rajshri, it's always fantastic interacting with Sudakshana. It is a very endearing conversation with her invariably, and it kind of, her warmth and her affection really kind of engulfs you. And it's been
Yes.
one more such wonderfully spent evening, Sudakshana.
You're
I
so
think
kind. Thank you so much.
not
Well,
all. We've learned
I
a
would
lot.
say one thing about her leadership. It's like we normally see how up high the positions have the managers, leaders gone in the industry, and that's what we would look at, that you've risen to such great highs. But more than that, what I realized is deep down below, there's so much of sensitivity, compassion, and that sort of, I think, encourages women like me probably more
Yes.
to keep continuing on that path. Uh, I can't express that in words, but it's such a joyful feeling. And it was, of course, a great time with you, learning so many small and big things, and how those big things can really be, very easily and simply handled, as you mentioned. So I would actually leave it to you to conclude the session with some takeaways for the viewers out here.
So, Rajshri, first of all, I mean, once again, not first of all, but once again, a big thank you. And also, I think women like yourself, um, you spark somewhere the thought that if one can dream, one can really make it. You make those dreams dreamable for people. And I'm sure there's so many of us who aspire to be uh, where you are. So I guess it's a huge thing. So keep inspiring people. And Rima, thank you so much for the kind words. Now for viewers, I think at the core of it, it's important to own the roots. It's important to remember where you come from, no matter how far you've gone. But it's very important every once in a while to just look back, because that keeps one grounded. That's kept me grounded. The other thing is that I was mentioning earlier also, keep things simple. It's difficult, but keep things simple. And over a period of time, it becomes easy to do. The third is that every interaction, I think it should be laced with kindness, and be real. Like if it's not up my alley, it's not up my alley. And if I can really make a difference, then I should permit myself to make that difference. Um, and that's it. I think it's important to just. I mean, there will be good days and bad days. There is no denial. It happens to everyone. It depends on how I want to, how much effort I'm making to go through that bad day without making it more defining. Just it's not easy, but again, as I said, if you really want to, if you acknowledge that this is something that one wants to work on, it is possible. And good days pass, so bad days will also pass. So
Yes.
it's all a season and a cycle. So what we see essentially is this tree with blooming flowers or leaves, and out of it, that's what everybody sees of us as individuals. But it's actually the roots which is not visible, which is beneath the ground, which is what holds and nourishes and helps the tree to flourish. So that's why I keep saying that it's important to nurture the roots. Then everything else will fall in place.
That's a key takeaway.
Splendid.
That's an absolute takeaway.
So,
That's very
yeah,
well
so
put, Sudarshan.
so just nurture the roots, nurture what's inside, and that's wellness, right? That's wellness. How well am I internally will be reflected on how well I am externally. It's not possible that I'm ill and I'm looking great. नहीं हो सकता. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
possible.
And like you rightly said, I mean, it is all internalized. If you can become well only when, even the disease will go away only if you have that within you. You have to really, really work on the mental quotient, which you did mention today. And it was a pleasure to be with both of
Thank
you.
you so much.
Yes,
Thank you,
same
Rima.
here.
It was
Thanks a lot,
lovely. Thank you
Sudarshan.
so
Yes.
much for the invite. I really enjoyed and learned so much. So I look forward to meeting you all again.
Sure, and I'm sure it's
Well,
not going to be the last program, because we have so much more to learn
we're
from
looking
you, and
forward.
and
Yes.
and of course to share. And Rima, thank you for making this happen, and hope you stay
Absolute
safe
pleasure.
with the storm out
Yes,
there.
yes, yes.
And Dakshina,
Yes, we will.
wish you very, very well through all these tough times. But I know with leaders like you, I'm sure we will smoothly
We will
sail out
sail
of it.
through. Yes.
Thank you, Rajshri, and all the
Thank
best.
you.
Continue to do well.
Sure.
Bye bye, Rima. Thank you.
Bye.
Take
I'm
Thank
care.
just
you.
going to
Thanks
play
so much,
the
Sudarshan.
last promo
Take care.
from Energia as they keep supporting our technical stuff at the background, and sending the links to various groups so that we can actually reach these programs to multiple of them. But thank you so much. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
viewers, for coming always and encouraging us.